Morning, all of you. So, welcome back after the fun-filled sessions yesterday. And so today we look forward for more insightful talks. And so starting off, we have Mr. Amit Krishna Gulati, member CII National Committee on Design and founder and director Incubus Consultants. So he has been a visiting faculty, alumnus in NID and visiting faculty in many of prestigious institutes as SPA, New Delhi, IIT Roorkee, and NID Ahmedabad again. And we have all witnessed his the Mudra installation at T3 terminal at New Delhi airport. So we really look forward for his talk. Amit sir.
Good morning, everybody, and I'd like to extend a big thanks to CI and IDC for getting me here. I'm coming back to this campus, I think, after almost a period of 20 years, and some things never change. It still has that infectious energy, and Chakravarti, like, I was just joking with him in the morning, he's like an energizer bunny. He never stops, and he's always brimming with ideas. He just gave like 3 amazing design solutions even between the stage and this lectern. So I'm really looking forward to spending more time with him and all of you. The first session today is on frugal innovation. I'm going to show you some methodologies. I'm going to talk about a frugal innovation toolkit. And this toolkit is something we've learned over the years. It's become quite a, it's become a best practice now with a lot of companies, but we sort of learned it bottom up. So I'm going to start with 2 quick videos on a couple of products that we've been working on over the last 1 year. They were both recently launched, and they really epitomize how frugal innovation born out of India is going global. And once we go through that, it'll put the whole conversation in context. Once I start the actual presentation, I'd welcome all of you to stop me even mid-course. I'm not wait one for questions at the end of a session. Usually when I'm in the audience, I forget what I wanted to ask. So we can break the protocol, so to speak, and we can stop mid-course, and I'll moderate. I'll make sure that we don't lose momentum, and you can make sure we don't go over time. Yeah, I'm sure you'll do that. So we'll just start with these 2 videos and then get going with the presentation.
For a newborn, nothing compares to the warmth of a mother's womb that provided it with protection and nurturing. So when a newborn makes that delicate transition from her mother's womb to the outer world, it is crucial that we provide it with a similar stress-free, stable thermal environment. At GE, our constant endeavor has been to partner with caregivers like you to provide stability to your patients. Now, we have reached yet another important milestone in making this a reality with our Lullaby family of products. Introducing the Lullaby Warmer Prime from the company with 80 years of experience with infant warmers. GE's latest innovation has been redesigned from the ground up to efficiently deliver exceptional thermoregulation at a fantastic total cost of ownership. One of the many features that distinguishes the Lullaby Warmer Prime from other warmers is its patented J-profile recessed heater design that directs heat evenly to the bed for more patient thermal stability. In addition, it is equipped with a cartridge CalRod-like technology heater that can reach near maximum irradiance in just 4 minutes. Designed keeping your patient's safety in mind, all patient contact surfaces in the Lullaby Warmer Prime are made with biocompatible materials, chosen to be gentle on the baby's delicate skin. What's more, it comes with an LED-based white observation lamp for clear patient observation while ensuring that no unwanted additional heat generation occurs, which may happen with traditional halogen-based lamps. The Lullaby Warmer Prime has been designed with inputs from caregivers like you to ensure that it is intuitively simple, easy to operate, and comfortable to use. For instance, The innovatively designed recessed heater not only enables the caregiver great access to the baby without interference from overhead heater hoods found in traditional warmers, but also minimizes the heat to them while performing procedures on the baby. The result? Exceptional comfort for the caregiver. The recessed heater design, combined with the lower heater height, also allows for an optimal placement of an overhead phototherapy unit. Furthermore, our warmer comes armed with an X-ray cassette tray and a radiolucent mattress that allows for uninterrupted thermoregulation and minimal handling of the patient during an X-ray. At GE, we realize that newborns are highly susceptible to infections, and hence, the Lullaby Warmer Prime has been designed to be easy to clean, thereby decreasing risk of cross-transmission of pathogens. For example, the specially designed transparent bassinet with smooth edges can be removed from the trolley for easy cleaning. In addition, we have also minimized nooks and crevices, and our warmer features a non-stitch thermo-sealed mattress to ensure cleanliness. The Lullaby Warmer Prime also provides for an easy controller user interface with easy-to-use controls and alarm indicators, as well as a one-touch mode switch button, facilitating and easing the process of switching between manual and baby modes. At GE, we understand that owning a warmer is not just a one-time purchase decision, but an investment for today and tomorrow. That is why the Lullaby Warmer Prime has been designed to withstand the toughest of conditions while keeping the total cost of ownership remarkably low.
Our warmer is an energy-efficient device requiring only 154 watts of power for its operation. This may result in considerable savings to your facility.
The Lullaby Warmer Prime is specially designed to meet the fluctuations in electrical conditions. Our warmer's electrical system is engineered to operate without a voltage stabilizer and can withstand voltage fluctuations of up to 390 volts. That's not all. Our reusable temperature probes are made with Kevlar, the same material that is used in bulletproof vests. Add to that a design built to minimize moving parts to ensure reliability, and you have a warmer that will be a steady and reliable companion to you and your facility for a long time. Come, experience the difference with GE's Lullaby Warmer Prime.
A sudden change in environment can be an intimidating experience for anyone. A newborn's first step into the new world could actually be too much for the little one to handle. For instance, if an infant fails to establish adequate breathing patterns for a smooth transition into extrauterine life, it would need help from caregivers like you. With a mission to support caregivers like you to provide every baby with the highest level of care, we at GE are proud to introduce you to the Lullaby Rhesus Prime, a product that allows for effective resuscitation and suctioning for the baby in distress. The Lullaby Rhesus Prime is especially suited for labor and delivery rooms, providing a compact solution for resuscitation needs immediately after delivery. Imagine a scenario where every second is precious and the newborn needs immediate intervention, but the caregivers are distracted in managing the myriad of equipment that they must today assemble for effective resuscitation. Any delay in managing this equipment and switching between interventions may result in harming the baby. By providing an integrated design with suction and resuscitation, the Lullaby Rhesus Prime allows you to focus on your precious patients rather than the device. One of the many features that make the Lullaby Rhesus Prime remarkable is that it can be easily mounted on the dovetail rail of the Lullaby Warmer or set up a smooth, flat platform for use, enabling ease of care delivery. In addition, it is compact and lightweight and comes with an ergonomically designed handle, making it ideal for intra-hospital transport. Now, you can take the device to the point of patient use without the hassle of moving multiple pieces of equipment and then assembling them. The Lullaby Rhesus Prime also comes with an extremely intuitive and easy-to-use interface with similar display and controls grouped together. Further, the compact integrated circuit design of the device reduces the chances of gas leakage during continued use, and the on-off switch ensures that no gas is used when the device is off to help prevent waste and improve savings. What's more, the device is completely gas-driven and has no dependency on electricity, thereby enabling you to provide uninterrupted care. At GE, we understand your need for clinical precision when delivering care to your critical patients. That's why the Lullaby Rhesus Prime has been armed with a pressure gauge that offers an excellent resolution, is easier to read, and most importantly, enables you to have accurate control over the suction pressure being delivered. We realize that your care areas are busy and see many patients every day. Keeping this in mind, the Lullaby Rhesus Prime has been designed to be compatible with a range of cleaning agents which may help reduce the risk of infection. The Lullaby Rhesus Prime has a plethora of built-in safety features. For instance, the suction pressure on our device is limited to 150 millimeters of mercury, thereby helping avoid tissue trauma to the patient's airways. The pop-off valve in our manual resuscitator releases the delivered breath to the atmosphere if the pressure exceeds 40 centimeters of water. And last but not the least, we understand that the environment around the neonates is one that needs care and comfort. At GE Healthcare, we understand this and handle your bundles of joy with a dollop of care. Come, experience this difference with GE's Lullaby Rhesus Prime.
Okay, so we go into the presentation. These were little long format promotional videos, but they didn't sound like advertising. Did you notice that? They were using words like interface, they were using words that all designers understand. And it's very interesting that the terminology of design has now become quite mainstream. And, everybody understood what they were saying. But, you can actually make a list of terminologies which until 3 years back were only specialized terms used by designers. And of course, these videos are pretty much for people who buy the equipment, for purchase managers, for doctors, and for specifiers. But the language is simple and it's the language of design. So that's a very big shift that, large engineering companies are slowly moving away from very highly technical information to user-friendly information like this. That itself is an amazing shift. So, really what we are going to talk about is methodologies to deliver frugal innovation and how places like India, Africa, Southeast Asia, which are traditionally seen as resource constrained environments, can become a real tool for global innovation. And a lot of companies are tapping into this opportunity really. So I won't read this out, but really design is going beyond its traditional remit of, designing products, objects and so on. It's becoming a much more, I would say, wide spectrum activity which helps change things for the better. And of course, India is such an interesting place, probably one of the world's most diverse countries, with diversity carrying forward into a whole host of opportunities. It's like a giant laboratory. Each part of the country has its own nuances, its own quirks. And if you really go into that, how people behave in different parts of the country, you'll see a lot of interesting areas for opportunities. People who come from Europe, from US, they rarely see this kind of vibrancy in their environment. It's all sorted out for them. And in India, you see a lot of problems. And problems is equal to opportunity for design. And as people, Indians are evolving as well. And this is really our state of mind. We are constantly conflicted whether we should be more Indian or more international. We are bombarded by visuals, by advertising, which constantly confuse us that should we be like rest of the world or should we be more Indian? And what is Indian all about? Because we are so regional in many ways. So this is a big contradiction that all of us try and deal with. And then we have the added complexity of a lot of people who don't have anything. And how do you design for a context where, even wearing a new watch could make somebody jealous, because they'll never be able to afford it. It's a very simple emotional response, but it can do a lot of, at one level, damage, but it can also lead to aspirations. It's a double-edged sword. When you see something nice, you might want to buy it or you might want to acquire it, and that might motivate you. So it's a constant challenge to balance that. And of course, eager to learn, create and prosper. This is really the DNA that's driving the country right now. So design, and especially industrial design, has traditionally been about improving, designing, changing things, objects, artifacts. And now increasingly it's become about intervening in systems. So if you see a company like Uber, they're not designing cars, but they're still providing transportation. So to provide transportation, you don't always need a new kind of train or an automobile or something. You have to look into the environment, see where they are, utilization issues. For instance, most people who own a car only use it for about 20% of the time. So approximately 80 or 75% of the time it's just sitting idle. That companies tapped into this idle resource and made it freely available. And if you see companies like Airbnb and a lot of other resource sharing concepts, they're all built around systems and they're all design solutions. And they are design solutions born out of the idea of design thinking. And it's about using human needs as a tool to come up with interesting new solutions. So this is the traditional design process model. And all of us who've been in design school or been exposed to design thinking work with this paradigm of feel, imagine, do, share. And the first step of design is empathy or caring for an issue. If you don't care for your consumer, if you don't empathize with them, if you don't live their life and dreams, you will not be able to come up with something that will tap into their needs. And needs are today not the needs that you get out of market research, because those are provoked responses. Needs are what are unarticulated, things that people don't express, but they certainly have a need for those things which they are not able to define. And that's the domain of the new. When somebody says, I want something new, then they've already defined it. But design really hopes to define things that are not actually put down in a precise sense. And of course, the rest of the process, I'm sure you must have discussed yesterday. Once you've empathized and figured out these opportunities, you need to define them more precisely. You need to work with them and come up with multiple alternatives. You don't have to apply too many constraints initially, but slowly apply constraints. Then you got to test and prototype those ideas, and then you have to make them at scale. So typically design is to do with things that you can do at a mass scale. That's very important. So to be able to imagine something new, you have to have a lot of tolerance for ambiguity. How many people here are engineers? Okay, so that's the majority in this room. And can you tell me what your sense on ambiguity is? Can you solve problems with incomplete information? I mean, if you were given a physics problem in an exam, for instance, a lot of people have applied for engineering tests and so on. You need to have a finite number of variables before you can give an answer. Design works in a very different way. The essence of design is tolerance for ambiguity. To be able to identify and then solve problems with incomplete information. You have to figure things as you move along, and that is a very fundamental difference between design and engineering. What I'm also saying is that design and engineering need to work together. So people who have no tolerance for imprecision need to figure out ways to collaborate with people who can do a lot of ideation with fuzzy information. And that is really what makes design tick, that collaborative process. So the couple of videos that you saw in the beginning were very good examples of collaboration between designers and engineers. It's not, design is also misconceived as one person's vision. And marketing tends to say, okay, that's the designer, or this is the person who came up with this idea. It rarely works like that in the real world. That's just an approximation. It's really a collaboration between very large teams. And what defines those teams is the ability to work together. Those products will never come out if those teams are in their own boxes and they don't want to collaborate. If the guys who want precision cannot talk to guys who can deal with imprecision, they will never be able to do things together. So innovation is born out of that, alchemy between precision and imprecision. That's very fundamental. The second important thing in the design process is tolerance for failure early on in the process. So the sort of slang for this is called fail fast. So when you are designing something and you are testing a lot of different ideas and many of those ideas fail early on in the process, it's a lot better than being in a situation where they fail later on. So have you heard about automobile recalls? Can somebody tell me what's an automobile recall? Yeah.
Automobile recall is whatever quality issues which are faced after the launch of the product. That company will work.
Little louder, please. I think this is very important what you're saying. So if everybody can hear you, yeah. We're going to keep it a little informal. I hope that's fine.
Automobile recall is a vehicle recall by automobile manufacturer, and this recall is being done because of design related defect or quality related defect in their product.
Absolutely right. Do you have any idea, say, if a company has a car with a faulty fuel pump, typically how much would it cost them? Can you just give a ballpark guess? Suppose Maruti launches a new car and after launching it, there's a fuel pump problem, minor problem, not a major problem, but it needs to be changed or it needs to be fixed. Do you have an understanding of how much it could potentially cost?
It will cost in maybe in millions of rupees, maybe more than 100 million of rupees, because it doesn't, apart from design countermeasure cost, it takes a lot of cost in servicing and replacement of the part.
Absolutely. He is absolutely right that it's the cost of replacement which need not be very high, but you have to get all your customers back to the service station, pay the service guys to actually fix that problem. Please sit down. What is also a huge cost is the unquantified or sometimes the quantified cost of bad publicity. That here you launched a great new product and after a few months you're saying, guys, there's a big problem, we need you back in the service center and fix it. It could be a very small problem, but the kind of bad publicity it generates is also very costly and expensive. So in the design process, if you fail earlier on in the design cycle, the cost is contained, it's limited. So you have to have a tolerance for failure, test new ideas extensively right at the design stage, rather than wait for things to blow up later on. So tolerance for failure doesn't mean failure after the launch. It means doing a lot of iteration before the launch. And with every round of iteration, you get a little more refinement. So design process is often thought of as a linear process, but actually it's like Brownian motion. It moves around a little bit till you get it right. It's also very important for designers to know when to stop the iteration. Because a lot of projects keep going on and on, they never get launched and then they become hugely expensive. Just because of not knowing when to refine it enough. So sometimes you have to decide, okay, now the solution is right, it can go out and there might be new issues that may come up when people interact with it. So really in the context of frugal innovation, what people really look at is affordability, simplicity, quality and sustainability. Can you think of anything else that they want? Somebody who wants affordability, simplicity, quality and sustainability, what else would they want? Yeah, so the reliability would be a part of quality. Anything else? Pardon? Style. Now that's a very interesting answer. That even though you want all of these things, you want something more. And that's the difference between a human and another kind of creature. You want something that will excite you, that will have an emotional connect. And no matter how cost effective or affordable the product is, it still needs an element that touches your emotion. When you're talking about style, you're really saying it should do something to your senses, something beyond the utilitarian. And therefore, that need for emotional connect, style, whatever you may call it, the X factor, is also a function. You know, when people say form follows function, that function is not mere utility. It's also that emotional connect. And that's very crucial. And of course, the last one is something that people don't think they need yet, but eventually you do need sustainability. Right? Something that is affordable, and like you saw in the video, something has a low total cost of ownership. So now you really look at the cost of a product, not the cost of what you buy it for, but the life cycle cost, which is, you know, how much it costs you to keep it. So what is frugal? The definition of frugal is something that's simple, economical, prudent, and careful. So that element of care for the environment, care for the people, is still a very important part of the process. And innovation. Now, innovation, if you go to any website, every company today claims that it is innovative. Everybody says, my company is innovative. You just have to go to 6 websites randomly, and the word that you will see common to all of them is the claim that they are innovative. But there are actually very few companies which are truly innovative in a consistent way. And that's because they need to come up with new ideas that generate value, long-term value. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, design and innovation need to be inherently scalable. That if something doesn't work at mass scale for a lot of people and it doesn't help a lot of people, it's not inherently innovative. It may be so that's also the distinction between an invention and an innovation. An invention might be a great idea that works in the lab or may be great for one person. You know, you must have seen these mad scientist movies that when he wakes up, the alarm clock starts ringing and then a chicken lays an egg somewhere and it sort of rolls around and falls into a pan, and then in a few minutes you have a fried egg ready to eat and it falls on the breakfast table. Have you seen those videos? There are a lot of movies that do that. Those are great inventions. They are not scalable. You don't have the ability to buy them yet, even if it's a good idea. So there's a big difference between an innovation and an invention. And it's important to be careful about these terms because we use the word innovation very carelessly. And it's very important to think about it. So innovation, of course, solves a need. We spoke about needs which are articulated and unarticulated. And innovation can be evolutionary, which is step-by-step innovation, and it could be disruptive, which is a major leap. So, you know, this is again something that you have to be conscious about, that sometimes a series of incremental innovations may lead to disruption. So if you think about the evolution of apes to humans, it was a very gradual process over billions of years. So if you see one ape to another ape, a gorilla and a chimpanzee, they're all similar, incremental. But if you see the difference that's occurred after a billion years, that's a disruptive innovation. It's occurred over time, but it's still disruptive. So these are some good examples. Can somebody tell me what's the revolutionary difference between the computer on the left and the computer on the right? GUI, okay, that made it friendlier, absolutely. What else? The mouse. So these guys Apple didn't invent the mouse. Does somebody know who invented the mouse? Xerox. But did Xerox make money from that invention? No. So very often great invention is also imitation, but putting imitation in the right context. So it's not great to just come up with a great idea. It's great if you can make it work in the right manner. So some of the most successful companies are not just innovative, they are also imitative. But they know what to do with their imitation. They're great copycats. There's another big difference. Can you think about that? Okay, integration. So everything is in one box or two boxes. What else? Simplicity. By combining features, they've made it easier to set it up. If somebody set up a PC versus setting up a Mac, there's a difference of a lot of cables. And that brings in an element of speed and simplicity. Another very crucial difference was being open source versus being proprietary. That's another aspect. We are running out of time, so I'll just go a little faster. Most of these visuals are self-explanatory. So this is a company that innovated a lot, but somebody else stole their cheese. So they didn't invent the MP3 player, but they used their ecosystem and said it in a very simple way. 1,000 songs in your pocket. That's how they sold it. They didn't talk about technology. They didn't talk about anything. All they said was 1,000 songs in your pocket. So great innovation also needs to be sold well. So I'll run very quickly now. A lot of us also confuse innovation with improvisation. They're different things. Improvisation can be the seed of innovation, but you cannot celebrate jugaad. Improvisation remains improvisation only because it's not scalable. This is an innovation because it's scaled up. You're familiar with this, right? The Jaipur food. In fact, IDC has done some work on this as well, I believe.
We only made this food for it.
Yeah. This is not jugaad, but it's a new idea that scaled up massively and has led to a completely new range of products, which are of course frugal, which are innovative, and it's been hugely successful. This is a product that's been launched recently by another company, which is very modular, but very specifically suited to Indian needs. And it takes certain things that the jugaad does. You know, the jugaad is a water pump bolted onto wheels and it becomes a truck when you want it to, and it becomes an irrigation pump when you want it to. So they've taken that idea and put a very utilitarian vehicle with its own power generator. So it can give mechanical power, which is through rotational force, and it has a small dynamo that clips on as well. So they've taken the idea from an improvised Indian solution and made it into a product. This is innovation. So don't celebrate jugaad, observe jugaad and use it to take it to the next level. So this is a quick summary of what I've been talking about in the context of frugal innovation. That improvisation can be a starting point for structured design. You have to learn from the copycats, the bandits, the people who do things cheaply, but you can't use all their methods. You have to just understand how they do things in a frugal way. And you have to rethink business models and production processes when you think about design. It's not just about a new shape or a new style. It's about looking at it inside out. So this is the toolkit that works for doing this. We've already discussed how you need to be more collaborative, work outside silos. You need to partner with customers. You need to also partner with competitors. You know, you have to make frenemies, friends and enemies who work together. You have to simplify, not strip down. You can't keep taking things away, making it cheaper and expect it to work in a great way. You have to build it bottom up, but you have to rethink. So you have to reinvent the wheel sometimes, but you have to do it in a cheaper way. That's being frugal. You have to make it very simple, very easy to use, and you have to use new materials in a clever and efficient way. Like in that warmer, you saw that idea of a mattress which has no stitching. That technology came from steering wheels. So they use a material called self-skinning polyurethane foam, which doesn't need skinning. It's a hard and soft material in the same mold, just through variation in its density. So it's a variable density material and it's been used in a mattress. So you sometimes migrate ideas from other areas and bring it in. Okay, so I'll run through this very quickly. These are the same two products that you saw in the video, but to show you the behind the scenes snapshot. What was the process that we followed? You know, a lot of us typically see the end product and say, wow, that's great. How did that happen? So we're going to quickly run through a few slides that are going to tell you how the process occurred. So it was a very collaborative process between our designers and the engineers at GE. And if that collaboration was not missing, had been missing, we wouldn't have been able to do it in 6 months. So this is just the context. Most of the doctors are in places where there are no patients. This is very interesting. Can you just see the delta? There are 750 million people with only 50,000 doctors, and there are 400,000 doctors for 85 million people. And in fact, I think there are more doctors from India and the US than in the whole of rural India. I mean, I'm just making a joke about it, but it's something close to that. India also has some very scary statistics. So no matter how high-tech we are and how many sort of satellites we send out there and probes to the Mars, planets and so on, we still have a very large number of babies who just don't survive the first 6 months. It's a very huge problem. And it's an ignored problem. Nobody's really doing a lot about it. And a lot of the equipment that's out there is very sophisticated, but it is super expensive. It's like if you had Mercedes for auto rickshaw. Every time you wanted a taxi, a Merc landed up. The economics just don't work. But in Germany they work, right? They actually use a Mercedes car for a taxi, right? So you can't do that in India. So they are doing exactly that for the healthcare business. They are making really sophisticated equipment, but nobody can buy it. And the place you see on the left and the right are basically the kind of healthcare scenarios that most babies experience. Some of them don't even experience that. They use an exposed light bulb to warm a baby. That's super dangerous and it really doesn't work. So all these existing products which GE was making were very sophisticated, but they didn't have any of the characteristics that a frugal product should have. So it had to be done bottom up, and those challenges of non-urban India were used as the innovation and opportunity generator. So you've been through the video, you know what finally came out of it, but these are the sort of things we were talking about when the process was just starting out. So it's very important to define the essential, desirable and optional variables in a frugal product. And this is some of the nitty-gritty behind the scenes kind of thing. So one of the big changes that occurred in the design process was, of course, we tested it and we evaluated it over several iterative cycles. But one of the big changes that happened in this product, which was disruptive in a sense, was the move from a north-south to an east-west orientation for the product. It sounds simple, but it was a game changer for the company. You saw all those things, how variable heating is happening, it's easier to access the baby. But there was one thing they didn't talk about, which is actually the real reason it works. Can somebody guess that reason? In India, because it's a resource-constrained environment, they use one warmer for 3 babies. And this design actually allows you to put 3 babies together with a lot more ease. Now, this is not a medically, you can say, endorsed practice, but it happens a lot, and there's nothing wrong with it. But it's not medically endorsed. It's like a shortcut which Indians take because they're short of money and they're short of people, and it actually helps save lives. So actually one warmer saves 3 times the number of lives in India than in another country. This is not there in any marketing brochure, but that made this design an instant success. Because it was so cost effective, we also looked at ways to make it, it's already something you use without a stabilizer. But we've also looked at a scenario where you have a solar powered inverter to make it work when there's no electricity. So that improves its reach to a larger extent. And it's very, very frugal on energy consumption. So it works. It's very easy to use, so you don't always need a trained doctor. So paramedics can use it. This is again not a medically endorsed practice. Doctors will never say don't use doctors, right? But if you can train paramedics, the access to healthcare goes up phenomenally. So this is just a quick comparison between what we started with and what we finally got. Can somebody guess the price difference? They both do the same thing, by the way. The machine on the right costs over 2 lakh rupees, 200,000 rupees. The one on the left costs about 60,000 rupees. And the new one which we've done is also now FDA compliant. And now hospitals in the US want it too. Because they're saying, why are we spending more? We can use the same product. So it's very interesting that reverse innovation flows both ways. So I'll just run you through these pictures and we'll take some more questions before winding up. So this is again the bag, the entire process for the second product, the respiration system. So these are all those messy pipes and things that the existing products had. And somebody mentioned styling. Who mentioned styling when we were talking about what people want? So interestingly, these are purely utilitarian products. One of the top needs of doctors was that it should look caring, it should look simple. So that is the emotional aspect. It's not enough to work well. If you quickly go back, these are the existing products. Do they look like they'll help a child? They look like battery starters. They look like industrial equipment. So making it friendly and nurturing in its emotional characteristic was an equally important aspect of the project. And then these are examples of prototypes to test the thing before making the final product, how to make it simpler, what kind of components to use. So very quick visuals from the design process. And you just saw the video for one model, but finally we created 2 models, a big one and a small one. Yeah, I think we won't go into this one. We've covered most of the points. I can just quickly show you the pictures so you can have some questions later on. They're all self-explanatory. working with people to design products. These are models not made by industrial designers, by ladies who use washing machines. And they did it in 4 hours. I know a lot of industrial designers who can't make models so good. And they put all their unarticulated and articulated needs into this one. They made problem-solving sheets. These are not trained designers, but they knew exactly what they wanted. So these are projects where we come up with a whole lot of crazy, innovative ideas for companies. We don't use technology as a barrier. And then sometimes after a period of few years, they launch the product, and if the idea had a strong ethnographic base, it becomes successful. This one's not only successful in India, it was designed for Indian consumers because Indian ladies like to wash the clothes by hand and then put it in the machine because they think they are adding their own, it's like adding masala in food. They're adding their own touch to the, especially school uniforms and husbands' shirts. They really like to do it themselves. And of course, there's a functional reason because it's such a polluted environment and nobody helps them at home. Husband doesn't help her wash the clothes. So she likes to do a little spot cleaning, where he's dropped his food because husbands are usually sloppy people. So they sort of take care of all of that. So just a quick summary of all the stuff that we've been talking about. We can go into questions based on this. And to do frugal innovation, you need all these things. Most of all, you need commitment and you need a culture that understands all these points. So we have some time for questions? Okay.
Maybe one question.
Thanks.
Do we get all this PowerPoint presentation in our email?
I can send it to you. Yes. I might edit a few slides which are confidential, but yes, I can send this to you. Absolutely. I will email it to those who, or I can email it to, whom do I email it to? To CII, right? And he'll circulate it. Yeah. Any other questions? And then we wind up. So thanks everybody and hope to stay in touch with you. Thank you.